Hello. Hello, everyone. Greetings to all the delegates who have present here. So I'm Dr. Soumita Sarkar from Gujarat University, India, and together with my co-author, Dr. Fatin Al-Abbasi from Saudi Arabia, I'm delighted to present our paper entitled CEFR-Aligned Vocabulary Instruction for ESL Learners, a triangulated conceptual framework based on comparative error analysis. So, vocabulary has always occupied a central place in language learning. Yet, despite decades of research, learners across different educational contexts continue to experience difficulties in choosing appropriate words and using them meaningfully in the communication. Our study asks a very simple but important question. Can evidence from comparative lexical error analysis be transformed into a CEFR-aligned instructional framework that supports vocabulary learning across proficiency level? So, lexical competence is central to effective academic communication. Yet, lexical precision continues to be a persistent challenge among ESL learners. In many classrooms, vocabulary instruction remains largely memory driven. And whether CEFR tells us what learners should be able to do, but provides relatively limited guidance on how vocabulary should be taught. This brings us to the central question of our study. How can comparative lexical error analysis inform CEFR-aligned vocabulary instruction for ESL learners? To answer this question, we propose a triangulated conceptual framework that synthesizes comparative lexical error evidences and translates it into CEFR-aligned instructional strategies. So the objectives of our studies are to comparatively synthesize lexical error pattern reported across published ESL studies. Second, to develop a CEFR-aligned framework for vocabulary instruction based on these patterns, and to integrate the digital scaffolding strategies that support vocabulary development across proficiency levels. Our study is based on 4 theoretical frameworks that are the lexical competence theory reminds us that vocabulary knowledge involves meaning, collocation, register, and conceptual appropriateness. The second is the communicative competence positions vocabulary as essential for meaningful interaction. Vocabulary acquisition research explains how lexical knowledge develops progressively through repeated exposure and strategic learning. And finally, the Lev Vygotsky's social cultural theory. It highlights the importance of interaction, scaffolding, and guided learning. Together, these perspectives support a shift from memorizing vocabulary towards meaningful vocabulary use. Our research design. This study is a conceptual synthesis built upon our 2025 learner corpus research and a comparative analysis of published lexical error studies. This is not an intervention study, but a conceptual synthesis. By triangulating evidences from empirical studies, published literature, and scholarly discussions, we developed a CEFR-aligned conceptual framework for vocabulary instruction. As you can see in this picture, the global context through which the ESL evidences have been taken up are 5. Now let us look at what the comparative evidence reveals. Across all 5 studies, lexical errors consistently emerge through most common language errors. Although percentage varied from approximately 3% to 32%, the pattern remained remarkably consistent. In 2 studies, the word choices are in rank 1, whereas in 1 study, it is in rank 2. This consistency suggests that lexical problems are not isolated to one country linguistic background or educational system or learner population. Inappropriate word choice appears to be persistent characteristics of all the ESL learners. These findings carry an important pedagogical implications. Vocabulary learning is not simply increasing the number of words the learners know. Rather, learners struggle with selecting the most appropriate word in a context. Therefore, vocabulary instruction must develop semantic awareness, contextual sensitivity, and pragmatic competence rather than just rote memorization. Based on these findings, we have proposed these are the word choice errors that are prevalent in most academic writing: low lexical precision, weak collocation, poor lexical inferencing, and limited contextual learning. Vocabulary knowledge extends beyond knowing meanings. So, the recurring nature of lexical error raises a very important pedagogical question. If these errors persist across context, what instructional framework can systematically address them? We have proposed the CEFR-Aligned model, which attempts to answer this question. The novelty of this study lies not in identifying yet another category of lexical errors, but in transforming the comparative lexical error evidence into a structured CEFR-aligned pedagogical framework. This is the conceptual framework of the study, which talks into identifying lexical errors, pinpointing specific errors, assessing proficiency, developing targeted intervention, then implementing strategies, and finally it is the achieving better outcome of the students in the academic writing. So the proposed CEFR framework has been divided as the A1 to A2 as multimodal vocabulary input, contextual inferencing, and semantic mapping for B1 and B2 level learners, and context visualizing questions, branching, corpus tasks, and space retrieval for C1 and C2 level learners. So these are the strategies that we propose to improve the vocabulary of the learners who are in A1 to A2 level. Utilizing pictorial storybook, practice reading aloud and demonstration, create a personalized word bank, leverage the Google Translator. We have to avoid newspapers and dictionaries initially. Fun games and activities can be used. Of course, we have to go for desuggestopia because it allows learners to enjoy and they are motivated. The strategies to improve vocabulary at the B1 and B2 level are the engage in reading aloud because it helps in better pronunciation. It also helps in improved fluency. It helps in stronger comprehension and selective attention. Identifying and highlighting the challenging words in the written text or in the audio, whatever they listen, is important in this level. Learning vocabulary through context and inquiry helps learners infer meaning, verify understanding, and retain the words for long-term use. Here, one example I have given, that is the word scurried. A cat scurried under the couch when it heard the firework. The inferential and discussion should be that what does scurried mean here? Clues. It is under the couch and heard the firework. The CVQ to verify the understanding are: is scurried a type of word, or was John moving slowly? Vocabulary learning through context-driven discovery helps student to infer the meaning, to verify with CVQs, and also apply in new contexts. These are the strategies that we have suggested for the learners who are in C1 and C2 level. Video-based learning, using subtitles to reinforce word recognition. Pause and note and look up the unfamiliar words. Learn in context, not in isolation. And minimum 3 minutes video and 1 hour of deep learning is required. Social interaction, as per Lev Vygotsky's social cultural theory, is very important. Engaging in discussion, group activities, debate, use words in real life interaction, peer teaching is also important. At this stage, we have introduced the digital vocabulary tools. which can improve the students' understanding and contextual meaning of the words. Flashcards, spaced repetition, long-term retention is done through such digital tools. AI-based tools can be used for pronunciation to improve the pronunciation and to improve the vocabulary. So selection, understand, apply. This is the framework, and it helps to develop a broad, deep, and functional vocabulary through active meaning. This is the contextual instructional framework that we give. The comparative error analysis that has been taken from the first hand from our own corpus that we have selected from secondary school in India. And we have also comparatively done the similar error analysis done by earlier scholars. These are the recurring lexical challenges where students face. These are the problems. We have suggested the CEFR-Aligned instructional strategies. We have used the triangulation evidences, and then vocabulary development outcome will definitely improve the lexical knowledge of the students. So the significance of the study is very simple because it bridges the theoretical inquiry and the pedagogical application. By synthesizing this empirical triangulated finding, the study investigates inherent challenges of ESL learners and lexical acquisition and identifies evidence-based actionable strategies for real-time classroom instruction. So the study talks about the theoretical part where it uses a comparative synthesis, it uses cross-context evidence, and it is CEFR aligned, which is highly informed framework which is used across the world. Pedagogical interventions are context-driven instruction, strategy-based vocabulary teaching, and it also helps teachers to select the correct instruction for the learners. It may happen the same students in the same grade can be of different competency or linguistic proficiency. They can select different instruction for them. The limitations, like all research papers, all research, our paper also has certain limitations. It is conceptual framework only. It requires classroom validation, and there is a lack of longitudinal component. So the future research can be experimental CEFR based classroom intervention. Real-time classroom can be done, recorded, and research can be done, and recordings can be done with pre-test, post-test, and delayed post-test model. It can be there can be comparative analysis of the guided discovery and focus on forms. So in conclusion, we can say that vocabulary instruction should move from mere memorization to meaning making. Vocabulary should no longer be taught as isolated words or memorization, but as meaningful choices to communicate effectively. This is the pedagogical shift our framework seeks to support. Comparative error analysis in combination with CEFR provides a very strong theoretical pathway for designing the context-driven vocabulary instruction. The question is no longer whether learners know more words, but whether they know how to use them meaningfully in context. As one of the theory or the basic of our conferences, taking the help of innovation and technology for a future education which is well developed and well conceptualized. So this CEFR aligned strategy based vocabulary instruction offers a principal pathway towards achieving that goal. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Now I am open for questions. Thank you.